Look, I'm just going to be completely real. This is not one of those videos where I'm going to show you how to get any one of these 13 jobs in the next 3 months or 6 months with this boot camp. I don't like those type of videos. I think they're scammy, and honestly, they just paint this false expectation in everyone's heads. But instead, what we're going to look at is 13 real cloud roles that exist today. We're going to look at the automation risk for each of them. Are they going to get automated by AI or other technologies? We're going to also look at the salaries, the career growth paths, the skills that you need to get into one of these roles. And as always, with Nextwork, we're all about hands-on projects. So how can you do projects to showcase these skills to employers to actually be able to put yourself in a position to land one of these roles? So every single job that I'll show you here, we'll also back it up with some projects that you can do or other ways that you can learn these skills. Now, just quickly, I want to touch on this automation risk scale before we actually get started into things. A lot of creators in the space are 100% certain that this career is future-proof or that this career is going to get automated in the next 1 year. I don't like that, because who actually knows? You can't speak for everyone in the world. You can't speak for every single different job in the world, because there are different factors at play. I think what we can do is look at the probabilities, look at the patterns that are going on currently. So we can look at things like, are they repeatable tasks, or do they require creative work? Do you need human judgment? Because just because something is automated doesn't mean it doesn't require human judgment to look and see if this thing actually makes sense. And lastly, what are the current automation practices that are in play, and what does this technology outlook look like for the future? So I've done a lot of research into Gartner and Forrester reports, AWS, GCP, and Azure, LinkedIn Workforce, and I've done also quite a lot of research into current AI tool adoption rates across the world. Now, as I said, your country, your circumstance, your experience may look completely different. A lot of this research is done for the general majority of the world, but again, your specific situation may look different. The job, the industry, the organization that you're in may be completely different, and you need to take this with a grain of salt and do your own research. Without further ado though, let's get started. So the first job we have is a cloud administrator. Now, these are the people who basically keep the cloud systems running on a day-to-day. And if you have incidents or things wrong in your cloud environment, they're the people that you're gonna come to that will then allocate you. Maybe it's something like permissions or incident reporting or managing cost. These are the people who keep things running. Now, typically, cloud administrators get paid between 70 and 110K. This is based on US data. And at the moment, their risk for automation is quite high, but we'll look into why that is a little bit later on. In terms of their daily tasks, you can see here, they're the people who are going to be monitoring tools like CloudWatch or Azure Monitor dashboards. You're going to provision resources, as we were saying before. You need to learn basic infrastructure as code. Also going to look at things like troubleshooting access and permissions. But I think something to note here is cloud admins often get looked at for only having technical backgrounds, but I think you also need to have a strong communication background. You need to know how to document things and also communicate it with different stakeholders within a business. In terms of the core skills that you're looking at, Linux and networking is an absolute basic place to start. It is such a mandatory field for something like cloud administrators. Linux powers about 90% of the cloud environments, and networking is learning things like VPCs, subnets, routing, basically having a basic understanding of how IT works. As we already talked about, you're going to look at cloud provider dashboards, infrastructure as code, some security and cost management, recovery, and like we said before, those documentation and communication skills are so important. If you're wondering where to get projects, I'd recommend going to this website here, learn.nextwork.org. It is our website, but the projects I'm going to show you, a lot of them you can do for free right now. So I'd definitely try and take advantage of that while they're free. You can go to the beginner's challenge, head down to projects here, click on that, type in beginner at the top. And if you're a complete newbie into cloud, AWS, anything cloud related, I'd recommend doing the series. It's going to talk you through how to actually set up an AWS account. You're actually going to look at different things like compute or storage, data visualization, security. It's a great way to get some hands-on experience through projects that is going to help you actually understand if this is something that you want to get into. Is it something that you actually enjoy? And as you go through every project, make sure to document your work. Now, what I mean by this is as you go through this project here, there's going to be opportunities here to add in screenshots or answer questions. And I think this is incredibly important and missed by so many people, because you may be doing the projects, you may be doing the tutorials, the certifications, but at the end of it, what do you have to show? What, like a certificate? Recruiters don't care about that. They care about actually seeing the tangible proof that you've done something. And this is where a website like ours is so useful because as you go through it, automatically formats it for you and you can download it as documentation. So you can download it as a PDF, a README. I just did a video on how to add projects and files into your GitHub. So you can actually create a GitHub repository for your projects in there. I'll leave it in the link down below or somewhere on the video here, it'll pop up. You can also add your PDF to LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, or even save it to your portfolio. I'll show you what that looks like now. So I'm in my portfolio here. I can go into my prompt engineering for ChatGPT project. So this is the project I did here. And here you can see all of my documentation. So all of the things that I have done in this project, instead of just talking about it, I can actually show screenshots as well. And I'm documenting everything that I can do. So recruiters are going to know that this is real. Something I want to note here as well is you can see this little line here where it says, I will definitely be looking at projects on Linux as well. On our website, we don't have any projects on Linux, and it is something that you need to learn for a cloud admin role. So I would look at other sources to try and learn Linux. If things like YouTube or ChatGPT are going to be a great place to start. There's a lot of content out there on Linux already. However, I would make sure that you're trying to do projects. Try and do exactly that. Even if you don't have Nextwork to document your stuff for you, try and add in a Google Doc or a Canva file to actually document your work so you can showcase it on different platforms. Note that this job here has a 4 out of 5 automation risk, and that is for a couple reasons. This cloud automation role, a lot of the things in the daily tasks have been automated somewhat by AI already. When it comes to incident reporting or self-healing, AI is getting better and better at being able to auto-scale or auto-self-heal. Well, self-heal, it's already auto doing that. So when it comes to AI is automating a lot of aspects for this role, but I think it is also freeing up a lot of aspects for this role. People in this role are given more responsibility now for more strategic initiatives or things like advanced security or maybe working in a multi-cloud environment. These are things that AI is not able to do right now, or not to the same degree that a human who is specialized in this role would be able to do. So AI is definitely automating this role somewhat. However, it is also expanding this role into a wider breadth of tasks and skills needed. Now, in terms of career growth, this is a perfect stepping stone to a cloud engineer role or a DevOps role. You may be ultimately going for a senior cloud engineer role, but you start off as a cloud admin or some of the other jobs that I'm going to show you. These can be great starting points for getting your foot in the door to actually be able to leverage a higher position. The second job we're looking at is a FinOps Specialist. So these people are the people who basically are investigating why cloud bills have spiked so much, or they're the ones that are trying to prevent cloud bills from spiking in the future. Their typical salary is around 85 to 120K in the US, and there is a moderately low risk of this job being automated in the future based on the research that I've done. Typically, as we said, these people are the ones who are analyzing spend and different cost management tools. They're creating budgets, they're working in Excel, they're hunting down idle resources that are burning up money. And again, you have to be collaborative. These are people that are working with engineering teams, and you're working to build more cost-efficient architecture. In terms of the skills that you need, data analysis is an absolute must, and same with having a familiarity with cloud tools, like cloud cost management tools in specific. You're going to have a deep understanding of how cloud pricing models work. You're going to work in things like SQL, Excel, dashboard creation, as I said, working across teams, and having a basic understanding of infrastructure. So in terms of the projects that I'd be looking to do here is some of the analytics projects. You can go into Nextwork, go to analytics here, recommend those. Here are some analytics projects. I'd also recommend doing our compute series and our networking series. Having that basic understanding of how IT infrastructure works is going to serve you well across all of these jobs. So that networking series, in my opinion, is so important. And I would also be looking at some FinOps specific projects that teach you more about budget allocation, dashboards. Even if you can't find exactly that on Nextwork, there's a lot of projects out there, I'm sure, on YouTube or other sources. Now, in terms of how AI is changing this role, this was a moderate risk. And the reason that is because AI workloads have absolutely spiked. There is a lot of spend with AI. And right now, FinOps specialists are more valuable than ever in the sense that these AI costs are often quite unpredictable. It's hard to know or to forecast future spends on when there's different tools coming out and companies are trying to adopt the latest trends and tools to stay up to date in the industry. So these FinOps specialists are becoming more valuable than ever. Now, as for how long that lasts, I'm not sure. But at the moment, this role is very, very useful and is one that's going to stick around, I'd say, for at least the next 5 to 10 years. The data also kind of indicates this, as there's been a 400% growth in job postings since 2021. And this kind of leads to a path maybe in more BA or business analyst, or something even in the cloud architecture or solutions architect field as well. The third role we're looking at here is a cloud developer. Now, these are the people who write code and build apps and tools within the cloud infrastructure and make sure that it's running smoothly and securely and that there isn't any downtime. Now, these people are the ones who are looking at, from a daily task point of view, actually building applications with cloud APIs, serverless functions, people who need to understand databases, storage, security. Now, with a lot of the jobs we'll talk about today, there's these core buckets that will keep popping up again and again. Things like security, storage, databases. You're going to see them a lot. You're also going to collaborate with DevOps teams on deployment. So I think having a strong DevOps related background is super important as well. In terms of the core skills, of course, you have to have a strong programming background. So Python, Java, JavaScript with cloud SDKs. Even though AI is able to write code, having an understanding of the language itself and structures and frameworks is going to help you a lot when it comes to being able to prompt AI to write code, or to be able to get AI to review your code. These are things that are going to help in the future, in my opinion at least, and the people that I work with. So additionally, serverless computing, cloud APIs, we talked about, databases, so non-relational, relational databases, cloud storage, also equally important. We talked about DevOps and having an idea about CI/CD pipelines. How can you integrate that into your workflow? And then security best practices are also super important. In terms of the projects, this is one of my favorite series here, this 3-tier architecture series, as well as the Amazon Lex chatbot and RAG with Bedrock series. This 3-tier architecture one is a banger. I definitely recommend doing it. It is super awesome. Also, I'd chuck in, I didn't put it in here, but I would chuck in the 7-day DevOps series. This is one that I recommend most people give a go at. This is quite a difficult series, but in it you're going to build an entire CI/CD pipeline, so I'd recommend checking out this challenge here. Now, this job here was a low risk of getting automated, and that's because I think AI is kind of changing this role a little bit to becoming AI first developers. So kind of what I talked about before, how you still need to have an idea of the fundamentals, but how can you use AI to help speed up that workflow? And those developers, I think, are really going to take the cake in the next 10-year period. In terms of career growth, there is a natural progression into a senior developer, or potentially even a transition into DevOps. As we're kind of noting, DevOps is stemming across all of these jobs, or a lot of these jobs. You're not just a cloud engineer anymore. You also need to have an idea of something like DevOps. And these are things that we're going to talk about a little bit later on as well. That leads perfectly into job number 4, which is a cloud engineer. I've broken down cloud engineers. I've done a roadmap video on this channel before, so I'll quickly just touch on this one, but we won't go into too much detail. Cloud engineers, they're earning back 80K to 180K. In terms of risk, that is a moderate risk right now. Cloud engineers are the ones who are basically designing and building the infrastructure and the foundation that all apps, companies that we know and love run on. When things are done right, they're invisible. When things are done wrong, everything breaks. So there's a lot of risk involved in cloud engineers' roles, but I think if you have the right foundations in place, you'll be completely fine. With the daily task, cloud engineers are not really clicking around in the console too much. They're deploying using infrastructure as code. You're going to set up things like cross-account networking, VPC peering, so having a strong understanding of networking is incredibly important. Monitoring and alerting, you're going to work with dev teams on infrastructure requirements, and you're going to need to be able to troubleshoot and problem solve really, really well. The cloud engineers in our team, I think that's something that stands out. They're able to actually explain difficult concepts to non-technical people in a very simple to understand way. And I think that sets out the good cloud engineers from the great ones. In terms of core skills, things that you can do, deep understanding of networking, security, infrastructure as code I talked about earlier. That's learning things like Terraform. There's some good projects on that on our website. Linux system admin and automation. Again, Linux runs 90% of cloud environments, so it is a great thing to learn. You want to learn things like cloud architecture, system design. A lot of companies operate on a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud environment. So I would focus on learning one cloud in depth, actually understanding all of the different services, how they work, when to use each one, and these skills are transferable across the clouds. So I wouldn't focus too much on learning Azure and then AWS and then GCP. I'd just focus on picking one to learn the fundamentals straight away, and they are transferable over time. In terms of projects, check out that networking series. 3-tier architecture is a banger, and the 7-day DevOps challenge is really, really good as well. Now, how is AI changing this role? Of course, this is rated a 3 out of 5 or moderate risk, and that is because this role has changed a lot, even in the last few years. Cloud engineers are now calling on AI or machine learning to help them do their role. They're calling on AI and machine learning for things like, I don't know, deployments or security, or maybe when it comes to logging and incident reporting. This does free up cloud engineers' time to work on larger strategic operations. And this, in my opinion, is a very good step forward for cloud engineers, so they can focus on the things that actually start to matter and are able to shift the needle for a company. However, with the speed that this is changing, there's of course some risk for cloud engineers. In terms of career growth, these are paths that lead to often a senior cloud engineer or even a cloud architect or AI infrastructure specialization. This is quite a wide role. I think becoming a cloud engineer and having that skill set is going to open up a lot of different doors for you. All right, before we get into the next role, let's just take a deep breath. Job number 5 is a DevOps engineer. Now, these people get paid a lot of money usually, and they're sitting in this 100 to 140K salary range. They're essentially the people that create these automated pipelines or systems that take code from your laptop to the production environment safely. Now, I've also added machine learning ops into here as well. Instead of software or code, they're essentially doing the same job, but just for machine learning algorithms. So they're the people that are taking your machine learning algorithm from initial deployment to training phase to then deployment into your production environment, and they're making sure that it's smooth and reliable over time with basically beautiful pipelines that are built. In these kind of roles, you need to have a strong understanding of CI/CD pipelines and GitOps practices. So having a fundamental understanding of how Git works is super, super important here. You're also going to be looking at comprehensive monitoring and observability, as we've seen with some of the other roles. You're also going to look at containerization with tools like Kubernetes, lead incident reporting. So I think something that I've seen in really good DevOps engineers are ones who can problem solve really quickly and not blame other people for things that have gone wrong in the code. And they're able to communicate this really strongly as well. In terms of the skills that you need to have, programming and scripting is really important here. So Python, Go, Bash, having an understanding of these languages. CI/CD pipelines and GitOps we already talked about. Container orchestration, so Kubernetes. Infrastructure as code, so that's things like Terraform and configuration management. And then lastly, monitoring, logging, and incident reporting. So in terms of projects, you already know the drill now. The 7-day DevOps challenge, absolute banger series, just do it. And the Kubernetes series is also super interesting here. Also would recommend doing some of the security projects, having a bit of an understanding there, and also looking at programming or scripting projects that you can do to actually upskill in that environment as well. The reason this is voted as a 2 is because I've grouped in machine learning ops into here as well. And I think machine learning ops, as you may imagine, is becoming more and more important in the future. Currently, DevOps roles are very integrated into other roles. Like cloud engineers need to learn DevOps or have a base understanding of how DevOps works. And I think this is going to be a trend that we see more and more over time, where DevOps engineers are actually integrated into other roles or have a wider skill set than just DevOps like it was in the past. But machine learning ops is becoming more and more of a dominant specializations, especially as companies start to adopt machine learning algorithms into their company. In terms of career growth, you can look at going into machine learning specialist. You're going to earn well over 200K, and a natural progression is into a site reliability engineer or a platform engineer. For job number 6, we're going to look at a cloud data engineer. They're earning around 90 to 140K, and they're the ones that build, collect, process, store data that is used for analytics or machine learning. In my opinion, the work that they do is incredibly valuable for people like data scientists. They would really struggle to do their job if data engineers did not exist. On a daily, you're going to be building and designing data pipelines, maintaining data lakes, warehouses, streaming systems. Things like data governance and cataloging are extremely important here, so using tools like AWS Glue. Also looking at the security aspect of data or GDPR compliance is going to become important, or is important. And also supporting machine learning teams with clean data and feature stores is really, really important here. In terms of the core skills that you're going to be looking at, of course, SQL and NoSQL databases plus data warehousing, super important. Big data tools, so Spark, Kafka, Airflow. These are things that you're going to hear when you're hearing about data engineers. You're going to look at cloud data services and data lake architecture. You're going to have a basic understanding of Python programming and pipeline orchestration, even with AI tools coming out. And lastly, as we said, data governance, security, compliance, having a base understanding of all of these frameworks and fields and compliances in different regions, going to be super valuable too. I would definitely check out the databases series on Nextwork. I was just looking at this one today, actually. Such an interesting series, and it is 5 different projects that you can go through. By the end of the series, you're going to learn the difference between relational and non-relational. You're going to have different tools that under your belt, like Aurora or DynamoDB. You're going to learn to query, load, extract data. Super, super interesting project series, and would definitely recommend. Also the analytics series, we've looked at that before. We'll check out some of the AI and machine learning projects as well. This is just a base one for everyone, regardless of the role. Start experimenting, playing around with AI and machine learning a bit more. You don't know how useful those skills could be for regardless of which role you actually go for. And I would definitely look at projects with Apache Airflow, Kafka, and data governance frameworks. Even if they're not covered in Nextwork, it can be really cool to get these skills under your belt. Now, how is AI changing this? It was rated a 3 out of 5 or a moderate risk for the future. Some aspects of this role have already been automated, like ETL, very much automated by AI at the moment. However, in the future, I think that AI infrastructure or data infrastructure engineers are still going to be very, very important. And that's because tasks like real-time processing or AI data-specific formats are quite difficult to do, and at this stage, definitely need human intervention. So I think there is still some time for the AI data engineer to still provide immense value in this next 5 to 10 year period. But honestly, it is one to look out for and keep your eye on. So something that people don't realize is AI requires data. So people in these roles that are able to create these pipelines and serve data in a format that is actually readable to machine learning models or machine learning engineers is incredibly important. These career paths often lead to things like a senior data engineer, maybe a data architect, or even some machine learning roles. Number 7, we got a cloud security specialist. Now these people are earning around $110,000 to $150,000, and there is a very low risk of automation, which we'll talk about in a bit. Now these are the people that protect your cloud environments from threats while ensuring compliance. On average, security breach is going to cost a large company $4.5 million. So it is something incredibly valuable for companies to get right and set up right from the start. In terms of daily tasks, you're looking at security controls, IAM, going to monitor threats, respond to security incidents. Again, we talked about compliance here. Same with the core skills, very similar. Cybersecurity principles and having a solid understanding of cloud security architecture is incredibly valuable here. Doing the basics well in all of these roles is going to carry you very, very far. Things like identity and access management, so IAM, compliance frameworks we talked about here are some to look at. Threat detection and incident response is also very important. And lastly, security automation and policy as code is something to look into as well. In terms of the projects I'd be looking into, security and account management, very, very important. And check out some of those. Networking, again, majority of these jobs are going to cover networking. So if you don't know where to start off with beginner series first, then do networking. It's going to put you in a good stead. But I'd also look into some more projects that are touching on zero trust architecture, compliance frameworks, maybe some more in-depth cybersecurity projects as well, even though they're not covered in Nextwork right now. Now, how is AI changing this? We rated this a 1.5 out of 5, so very low in terms of automation risk. And the reason this is because even companies right now, around 36% of companies are using AI to detect security incidents or threats. However, there's also this raise or wave that's come now of AI attacks. So not only is there incident reporting, but there's AI attacks. Right now, there is the most amount of security threats that there has ever been in history. And that's because AI has not only helped defend, but helped attack. So these people, as we saw before, as one breach is going to cost $4.5 million, could potentially ruin your whole company's reputation. People in security are incredibly, incredibly important and incredibly valuable for companies and will be in the foreseeable future. In terms of career growth, you can go into a security architect or chief security officer and you're going to get paid bank. Just before we move on to the next job, I quickly want to take this time to please ask you to like the video, subscribe, comment down below. It's a new style of video and we'd love any feedback on it. But as for now, we'll move on to the next job. Number 8, we got a site reliability engineer or an SRE. They're earning 80 to 200K, quite a wide salary band, but that's the band that I could find. And what you're actually doing here is applying software engineering principles to operations. Now it is still a cloud related job because they are working in cloud environments, and they're essentially just trying to keep things, as it says in the name, reliable. They're trying to keep the cloud applications running, or when there is problems, they're trying to make sure that it gets back up as fast as possible. And usually these people are preventative rather than reactive, in the sense that they want to try and identify these problems in advance rather than just fixing things when they break. For the daily tasks that an SRE might look at, you're going to define reliability targets, you're going to build automated response tools. This is one that pops up quite a lot, but it is essentially learning from failures through blameless reviews. This is one we've seen in many jobs, but I think it's important to keep putting this in here because when you are looking at incidents and you are looking at problems, it's very easy to just blame other people, but I think actually a more productive solution is looking at the root cause of a problem and trying to figure out how it could not happen again. These people are also planning for systems growth, all while being on call to reduce repetitive work through automation. For the skills we're looking at, strong programming skills combined with deep systems knowledge is going to set you up really well. They need to know how to code solutions in Python or Go, and understand just distributed systems, set up comprehensive monitoring, and manage both infrastructure and incidents at scale. In terms of the projects you're looking at, very similar to some of the others, networking, the VPC series coming up time and time again, DevOps Challenge and the Kubernetes projects are all going to be very useful. I'll definitely also be looking at projects within SRE practices like error budgeting or capacity planning and advanced monitoring setups. They're going to help you stand out when you're applying for roles like this. So how does AI change this? Because we saw that it was rated a 2 out of 5 or a low risk to AI automation. And this is because SREs are now at the forefront of AI ops. They're using machine learning to predict system failures well in advance of what humans could. But managing complex AI infrastructure is going to bring its own problems. So you need to have real humans to diagnose problems and architecture solutions. While AI can handle monitoring and basic responses right now, the critical decisions and the system design and incident management and reliability engineering, these require human expertise that can't be automated right now. So that's why this job is rated a 2 out of 5. There is a low chance of automation, especially in the next 5 to 10 years. At number 9, we got a machine learning engineer. Now these jobs have gone up crazy percentage in terms of job postings. I think it's around 280% since 2022, and is a very in-demand role, also rated very low in terms of automation risk. You're going to be earning around 120 to 180K, if not more, as a machine learning engineer. These are basically the people that bridge data science research and production systems. So essentially data science, think of it as the people that build and experiment with these models, and then machine learning engineers are the ones that actually bring it into the real world, into live applications, so people can actually use, millions of people can use them at scale. In terms of your daily tasks, you're going to deploy machine learning models to production using automated pipelines. You're going to also then build the infrastructure needed for training, monitoring, maybe updating those models over time. You spend time ensuring that these models perform well as data is consistently changing, and you want to implement secure safety measures. We're finding safety with AI, and being responsible for AI practices is very, very important. And much of your work is going to involve managing the entire life cycle from development to retirement of certain models. In terms of the core skills that you need, having strong programming combined with solid machine learning fundamentals is very important. Plus experience in frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch, having DevOps skills, containerization, cloud deployment, they're incredibly valuable here. I'd also recommend having some knowledge in machine learning ops tools for automation and monitoring, especially as we move into the future. And understanding responsible AI principles and feature engineering rounds out most of the technical foundation that you would need as a machine learning engineer. Obviously, we haven't gone into too much detail here, but these are the core principles that you need. I definitely recommend doing our AI and machine learning projects. Our RAG series with Bedrock, man, I love this project series. I definitely check out the RAG projects right here. It is a lot of fun. How is AI changing this? I mean, it's rated a 1 out of 5 because it is a machine learning engineer job, and it is one of the fastest growing roles in tech right now, with no foreseeable automation risk. The complexity of production AI systems means that demand will continue to outstrip supply, especially for engineers, I think, who understand both traditional machine learning and modern AI development patterns, it's going to really set you up well for the future. In terms of career growth, this is going to set you up on a path to a principal machine learning engineer, which again, you're going to earn a lot of money. At number 10, we have a cloud product manager earning an average of 90 to 150K a year. These are the people who define basically what gets built and why, and they're trying to bridge the technical capabilities with a company to the actual business value that they deliver. Now, cloud PMs often have their own go-to-market strategies for cloud transformation initiatives, and are increasingly focusing on AI product strategy. I'd think of this role for later stage companies, typically not involved as much in startups or smaller companies, but can be very useful for bigger organizations. On a daily basis here, you're gonna spend a lot of time doing market research. So figuring out what are your customer problems, what are your competitors building, and then you're gonna define product roadmaps, which basically means deciding what to build next, while balancing what users want, what's technically possible, and what makes sense for the business. You'll constantly work with engineering teams to prioritize features and make tough calls about technical trade-offs, and you'll be analyzing product metrics, user feedback, to understand what is working and what isn't. A big part of this job is presenting AI product strategies to executives and keeping everyone in the loop, while also keeping expectations realistic, when people who are executives often want everything built yesterday. So it's managing a lot of stakeholder relations, so you need to have good people skills to have a role like this. So yeah, in terms of core skills, I'd think of it more as more of a overarching understanding about a lot of things, but you need to have some technical know-how as well to understand how different systems work, so that you are able to coordinate between teams. Because if you don't understand the technical, then you're not gonna be a very good cloud product manager. But you also need to be able to communicate that to the different teams and stakeholders, as we talked about before. The projects I'd be looking at here are the 3-tier architecture series, AI and machine learning projects for understanding a lot of the products that you'll be managing. And I would definitely look at projects within product management frameworks. This is something we don't cover on next week at the moment, but is something that if you're looking to get into this role, doing some projects or even getting some experience in product management is going to be very, very useful. How does AI change this? Now, there is a risk of 1.5 out of 5 or very low. That's because AI product strategy is becoming essential, but strategic decisions and stakeholder management require human judgment. And right now that can't be automated. So demand for these AI literate PMs is accelerating. Like, I know that there is a 65% increase in job postings for cloud product managers that now have the word AI literate or AI in the job posting itself. So having skills in AI as a PM is really going to help you stand out in the long run. It's going to help you transition into some of those career paths, like maybe director of product or a CPO, chief product officer. At number 11, we got a cloud consultant earning an average of 80 to 180K. Cloud consultants, I think they're always going to be around. That's why the risk is very low. They're essentially advising organizations on their cloud strategy and guiding them through the transformations. Every client is going to look slightly different, and that's part of the job, is being able to handle a wide range of clients and their different expectations. So what are the daily tasks that you're going to go over, and what are some of the core skills that you need? Essentially at the start, you're going to assess companies' infrastructure and then create comprehensive roadmaps for them to then actually lead those migrations and potentially even multi-cloud strategy implementations. Part of the role is facilitating workshops and creating training plans so that people within the organization are staying up to date on the latest technologies, and they know the technical know-how, or at least what they need to know, to actually be able to implement these changes at an organizational level. Now, from a core skill perspective, having a broad technical knowledge across multiple clouds, or having a deep-rooted understanding of one cloud and then being able to apply it to others, is incredibly important here. Also, having some business analysis background and some executive communication skills can be very important. Product management and change management experience, industry understanding, and regulatory knowledge. So basically, as consultants need to know, they need to have a wide range of information that they can then pull together to create a plan for something. And lastly, of course, you have to have presentation skills and training skills to be able to teach something that you have created in a way that a lot of people or everyone in the organization is going to be able to understand. Projects here are a little bit more broad Again, networking series always coming up. 3-tier architecture is going to be incredibly important. We also have a multi-cloud project that I'd recommend, and just getting a wide range of projects, understanding the different needs of a business is going to help you here. But yeah, I'd be looking at some projects on change management, executive communication. That's why I think documenting your work and being able to explain what you've done is so important, and is going to help you in interviews as well. When it comes to how AI is changing this, we've rated this a 1.5 out of 5, or very low risk of automation. And this is because, I mean, in the last year, I think it was 44% of client engagement since 2024 include AI transformation components. So that's where consultants are helping clients identify where AI can create business value and navigate organizational changes. Essentially, when technology is changing so fast, there will always be people needed or consultants needed to then educate others into different ways that they can implement this technology. So this type of strategic advisory work is one that's been around for a long time, and I think will continue to be around for a long time, and they're incredibly valuable people in the industry. The career growth here is a bit variable depending on the person, but often you're going to lead to a lot of money, and it could be somewhere along the way to independent consulting or even some executive roles at different companies. At number 12, second last, we got a cloud architect earning 125 to 180K with an extremely low risk of automation. We'll talk about that in a bit. But essentially what cloud architects are doing are designing high-level technical strategy for organizations to use different cloud technologies. So their decisions are often the ones that will cost companies millions and millions and millions of dollars, not only in money, but also in technical direction, so time as well. Now, these roles are increasingly using AI-ready design architectures and often integrate multi-cloud integration patterns as well. In terms of what you actually do on a day-to-day, you're gonna be designing comprehensive cloud architectures using well-architected principles. You need to conduct reviews to ensure that you follow best practices as well. And you're going to evaluate multi-cloud integration patterns and what they call service mesh implementations to basically make sure that you're not locked into a certain vendor. So let's say you're building everything on AWS. You don't want to make it incredibly difficult for you to switch to a different vendor in the future, like GCP or Azure, because you're locked into this vendor. So you need to be thinking about that as a cloud architect to prevent vendor lock-in in advance. A big part of this role is presenting technical strategies to executives, including like risk assessments. So what happens if AWS goes down? You need to also review implementations to make sure they meet architectural standards and that you are cost optimized across this all. So you can't be spending too much money. This is quite an advanced skill set, so you need to have a deep yet broad technical knowledge across platforms. Having a multi-cloud architectural understanding and integration pattern understanding is going to be very important. As we talked about, communication skills, so important in this role. The best cloud architects that I've seen or worked with are ones that can actually experience or take something that is technical and then serve it up in a non-technical way to a wide range or a wide audience so that everyone understands it. As well as this, you got to have strategic thinking, so understand the business use cases and the enterprise risk assessment, as well as a leadership position. You have a lot of influence, you have a lot of power and decision-making authority, so you need to make sure that you're using that wisely. Again, having a networking understanding, that Amazon VPC one keeps coming up, so you better be doing that, as well as multi-cloud, AI and machine learning is very, very useful. And then I think also looking at projects at a enterprise architecture, so looking at system design frameworks, well-architected reviews, strategic technologies, these are going to put you in a very good position for a cloud architecture role. How is AI changing this role? We've rated this a 1 out of 5, or extremely low for AI automation. And the reason for this is it's similar to a cloud consultant, where there will always be the need for a human intervention when it comes to strategic thinking. So as AI systems get more and more complex, the need to pull in business context and strategic thinking from executives or people who understand large AI systems or infrastructure is going to become more and more important. This role will only get more and more valuable in the future as well. So that's why we've rated it so lowly in terms of the automation potential for the future. For career path, I mean, man, you're already getting paid a lot, so I don't know if you got to go too much further. There's a progression to a CTO or a technical fellow position, but this is a very prestigious role in cloud. So if you ever become a cloud architect, props to you. At lucky number 13, we have an edge computing engineer earning an average of $118,000 to $192,000 a year. This might be one you haven't really heard of before. I hadn't heard too much about it, so I did a lot of research into this particular role. And Edge AI engineers have actually increased 300% in the last 2 years, which is insane. And they remain highly specialized with limited automation potential, which is why they're rated 1 out of 5. In terms of what edge computing is, I'd think of it as basically putting small computers closer to where data is created instead of sending everything to a massive data center that is far away. Like, think of it like this, like instead of calling a headquarters every time you need to make a decision at a local store, you instead have a smart manager at each location who can make a decision on the spot. The main benefit of this is speed, so there's no delays waiting for distant servers, and reliability, so it works even when the internet goes down. And edge computing engineers, they set up and manage these local computing systems, often running AI models on like directly on cameras or sensors or mobile devices for real-time decisions. So in terms of what you're actually doing, you're setting up computer systems at local factories or cell towers, and then you optimize AI models to run on a smaller local hardware. So from there, you'd build remote update systems for thousands of devices and handle situations where the internet is unreliable or offline, all while maintaining privacy laws, compliance, making sure that your data is secure and safe, and also pays to learn things like containerization. In terms of the core skills that you're going to learn, things like distributed systems knowledge to connect multiple locations, programming skills are going to be super valuable for small devices with limited resources, containerization tools like we just talked about with Docker, as well as AI optimization skills that help you shrink machine learning models for edge hardware. And security expertise, as we talked about earlier, is very, very important here as well. In terms of projects to learn these skills, definitely would be looking at that networking series, comes up time and time again, AI and machine learning. Some of the Kubernetes projects could be useful as well. There's also a project that I'd recommend on Docker, and I would definitely look at projects within Internet of Things, programming, embedded systems, edge AI optimization. They're not covered on Next Week yet. However, there's some resources out there on YouTube or even ChatGPT that can help you learn these topics. But this is quite an expert level or advanced level role that requires a lot of experience, a lot of projects, a lot of knowledge to be able to get into this field. In terms of how AI is changing this is extremely low on the automation scale. And this is because every edge deployment is different. Like, you have different hardware or different network conditions, different regulatory environments. You can't automate solutions, let's say in a factory floor in Germany that has completely different needs to a retail store in Texas. The complexity of optimizing AI models for thousands of different device types while ensuring they work offline and meet compliance requirements, this is something that requires human intervention. Until AI is able to gather that level of context and be able to orchestrate it together, I don't think this job is very in risk of being automated by AI for the extended future. Just before we wrap up the video, here's 4 takeaways that we should look at first. First of which is that easy entry-level roles often lead to higher automation risk, but are perfectly good stepping stones. But maybe your career path looks like entry-level, and then you get a senior-level position, or you change industries, or maybe you go from a mid-level to an entry-level. Like, I know someone in our community that was a US cybersecurity master's student, and he couldn't find a job, so he took a job as a janitor. And in the second day of his job, because he had documented his work, he was able to land a role as an IT lead. Like, how insane is that? But it just goes to show that your career progress can look so different, and that is okay. The second is that AI creates specializations within roles versus eliminating jobs. We saw that a lot today, that roles are expanding. The scope of a role now looks very different to how it did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and it will always continue to adapt and change. And that kind of leads me on to number 3, is choose based on roles that actually energize you rather than just salary numbers. Because the world is changing so quickly, if you're stuck in a job and you just have this skill set, of course it's going to change. And very soon you may find yourself out of a job, which is incredibly scary. So why not pick a job that actually energizes you, something that you're curious about, that you're interested in, that you're going to devote time to actually upskill, so that in the future you will adapt with the job, you will adapt with the scope, rather than just pick a job just for the salary. And then lastly is we're seeing that traditional cloud is emerging a lot with AI capabilities. Across all the roles we really saw, AI is influencing them in some way, shape, or form. So it makes sense to actually build those hands-on skills with AI projects or machine learning projects, and actually get interested in AI because it is here to stay. In terms of the strategy, pick a role or don't. Just get started with projects. Literally the best thing you can do, go to the beginner series, start doing some of the projects, and you'll be completely fine. If you are stuck on anything, join our community. Go to community.nextweek.org. There is thousands of people in here, and we are super, super active in this community. People ask questions all the time, and they're always answered. So if you get stuck, it's a great place to ask questions, great place to meet like-minded people. So I definitely recommend joining it. Everything will be in the description below, so check it out in the description. Let me know if you like this style of video. It is a new style of video. It took a long time to do this research and to edit. Hopefully you got some value out of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.